So the iPhone XR is like just a straight up weird phone. Not like weird bad, it's actually pretty great in most areas, just weird for Apple. It's a completely new area for them of like almost flagship, and it's also strange to review this phone in a vacuum, which is what I usually like to do, because it kind of needs to be held up against the XS and the XS Max. Like if you're buying one of these, you know what the trade-offs are and what you left on the table by going for the XR, and obviously deciding if those are worth it for you. So like all our reviews, hopefully this will help you decide if you should buy one. So if you decide that the XR is something that like maybe you want to consider putting in your pocket, the deciding factors would probably be screen and camera. At least that's what I thought, until I ran into a host of other issues that we will get to. So it's a 6.1 inch Liquid Retina display, so size-wise it's kind of right in between the XS and the XS Max, and it's a larger display than the old Plus models of phones. It's an LCD screen, like we're used to, but crazy overdeveloped and implemented in a way that's kind of new. It's also, I think, easy for a lot of reviewers to just say and discount it and say it's a crappy LCD or that it looks fine. What Apple's actually done with the display is really impressive, even if the result is kind of underwhelming at times. So I couldn't think of a better term to say this, but Apple went like full Apple on the LCD panel. If you look at phones that have used LCD panels in the past or even recently, take like the G7 or any iPhone that's on an iPhone 10, notice they almost always have chins and almost practically never have rounded corners due to light bleeds. So LCDs need a backlight to work, unlike OLED, like the iPhone XS and XS Max, where each pixel is its own light source. It can be turned on and off on their own. So that's why if you like look at the XR and you see those big bezels around the side. So obviously it's not as good as a XS, but it was never supposed to be. Color reproduction is actually really good, and they look bright and pretty vibrant. Black levels are typically where LCD panels like do not necessarily shine through, but Apple did a nice job making black levels actually look black and not just like a dark gray. Reading text though is where I really started to notice the screen. Text could look chunky at times. I'm not saying like I could see pixels, my eyes are not that good, it just didn't look crisp. I did stop noticing it as much. It's not really an excuse, but I figured it's worth mentioning. So there's also some weird color shift happening when you sort of move the phone off its axis. It's not a big deal, it's definitely not a deal breaker, but it's something worth noting. So all the engineering that Apple had to do to like make that display also meant they had to ditch 3D touch for something that they're just made up called haptic touch, which is really just like a long press plus a vibrate. And I didn't think that was gonna be a big deal. I didn't realize how often that I use 3D touch, and I started to really miss it. I used it for things like accessing my most called contacts on the phone icon. Interacting with notifications was a huge one for me. And Apple initially claimed that haptic touch could replace 3D touch, and someday, maybe it will, but as it stands right now, it is crazy inconsistent. I can use it to like open the flashlight from the launch screen, and for the most part, that seems like it. I hope they'll fix it with software updates, but right now, it was a big bummer. So on the camera side, this is essentially the same setup as a XS, just with the telephoto lens taken out, and it adds some like interesting complexities, and they're not all bad. So the XR uses a lens with an f1.8 aperture, which is going to mean it is ridiculously awesome in low light. And since it's not relying on the other sensor for depth, you can also shoot portrait shots way closer than you can with the XS. But unfortunately, it only works with faces right now, which kind of sucked. Hopefully they'll improve that and use it with other things. You have to look at how you use a camera. If you're gonna use that 2x zoom, then you're not going to be happy here. If you're gonna do digital zoom, like any digital zoom, it's gonna look noisy. I took it to a football game and you can see what the zoom looks like. All right, so all that stuff aside, if you just wanna like use it to take pictures, they come out looking a little warm. I think they do a really good job like capturing the setting, what you're taking a picture of. So I think if you're gonna just like boil it down, it comes to this. I think Apple did a really smart job ditching the telephoto lens in the name of cost. What they give you isn't like a 2 gens old sensor. You're getting exactly what their current flagship has. I think that was kind of a smart move. All right, so let's talk about that body. The phone itself is kind of another departure from the norm of Apple. They're a really bright color option, something that we have not seen since the plastic 5C. I've personally been itching for a product red phone, but yellow, coral, blue, and even black and white all look pretty nice. The glass on the back though, you should know, is not the same super strong glass on the XS. It's actually the same as what's found on the 10. And judging by how many scratches my 10 had, how many pictures I've seen of broken backs, you're gonna want a bit of extra protection there, even if it means covering up that gorgeous color. There's a ton of similarities between the iPhone 10 and the 10R, not just the glass back. And I feel like I need to still mention this. There's no headphone jack on the iPhone 10R. Apple's super excited and eager to sell you a pair of AirPods for 160 bucks. I bought them, I liked them, and then I quickly lost them. So I tweeted out a picture of the absolutely useless Find My AirPods feature, and a company called Funcl reached out to see if I wanted to try their $20 wireless headphones. So I gave it a shot. These are the W1s. They were much better than I expected. So while this is a sponsored segment, this was like definitely a product that I wanted to try because again, I really didn't want to spend another 160 bucks for headphones. And I had never heard of Funcl. I thought that was just like me at my nephew's birthday party. But battery life was pretty awesome. Got 18 hours of battery life. It had touch control. The sound quality was pretty good, engineered to support AAC. The bass was pretty decent as well, and I could make phone calls with it. And for 20 bucks, there really wasn't much to complain about. So if 20 bucks for wireless headphones that work well sounds like your jam, we'll link to them down below. If you want a few more features, there's another one that they offer called the Funcl AI. It starts about 55 bucks. They use the Qualcomm chip, so they're aptX headphones, and they're gonna give you 24 hours of battery life. And they're also water and sweat resistant if you wanna take it to the gym. So if you want those features, 55 bucks is a pretty good price to pay. I was also kind of crushing on the $20 W1s. I could literally lose 8 of these before it cost me what a pair of AirPods would. So Apple was claiming huge improvements in battery life. For my experience, it was like 7% better than what I got on my 10S. It's still a day phone, but if you decide to push it and tweak settings, you could probably get to like maybe 7 hours of screen on time. So there are also other sacrifices being made here compared to the 10S as well. It's IP67, not IP68. It's not a huge deal, most likely. No gigabit LTE. But I will say I had almost exactly the same reception with the 10R as I did with the 10S, but if you rely on gigabit LTE or live in an area where it is, you should know that. Also, there's only 3 gigabytes of RAM versus 4, so the RAM didn't seem to matter anything. The software experience was just as fast as any other iPhone I tested, and here's where the burn on the 10R started to come in. I had way more bugs on this phone than I've ever had with any iPhone I have ever used. Things as small and benign as Siri not responding. I had phone resets, I had screen not rotating properly. It was just a mess of stuff and things that I don't expect from Apple. And in the interest of honesty, I really wanted to like the 10R. I was prepared to make the spec sacrifice and use it as my daily driver because I really liked the way the phone felt in the hand. But I'm spending this much money, in my case 800 bucks for a 128 gigabyte variant, I have certain expectations. And constant bugs that I came into and continue to run into, even on 12.1, has made this a really tough phone for me to love. So what's really holding me back, all those bugs aside, was also having to relearn how I use iOS without 3D touch and really wonky all over the place support for haptic touch. And I thought that I could live with them like any issues on any phone. This is obviously very atypical for an Apple device, so I just thought maybe I had a bad unit. When I ordered the phone, actually I ordered 2, so I switched to the second one and I set it up from scratch, so not restoring from backup, and I still had the same issues. Using the 10R was so degraded with the software experience, I cannot recommend the 10R, despite it seeming like the perfect compromise of features and price. I think probably the better option here if you want to save some money is pick up a used iPhone 10. You'll get a slightly slower processor, but you're gonna get an OLED screen, dual cameras that are still really good, and if you absolutely need like a brand spanking new iPhone, the really only option here is spend an extra 250 bucks at minimum for the 10S. So am I alone with software issues here on the 10R? Did you pick one up and has it been fine for you? Again, I am running the latest version of iOS as of this filming 12.1, and it's still not good. Leave in the comments down below and let me know if you got a 10R. I really do want to hear your thoughts. Maybe this is just isolated to me and I'm super unlucky. Anyway, let me know what you guys think. Until next time, I'm John Rettinger from Techno Buffalo. Talk to you guys next video.